Next up, Nicki, you were on earlier. I'm guessing you're still on and ready?
Yes, yeah, I
Perfect. You
am.
have the floor.
Thanks, Walt. And thanks to our two companies, Rocos and Robotics Plus, for presenting some of New Zealand's capability. And Steve, you've stolen half my presentation already, but great that I can reiterate some of the great work that Steve's been doing. Thanks also to Western Growers for this opportunity. New Zealand is very supportive of the work Western Growers is doing to bring this global initiative together around automating harvesting. We really value the partnership with Western Growers and also acknowledge the work of our industry partner, AgriTech New Zealand, of which I know Peter Hilton is on the line. And they've been working, and we've been working alongside them going back over 5 years. And this has led to the signing of a MOU between AgriTech New Zealand and Western Growers in August 2018. New Zealand has been working closely with Western Growers and with delegations from New Zealand to Salinas and the wider California area to meet growers, understand the challenges and connect New Zealand's capability with US problems. And thanks to Dennis, who's been a great connector for some of the work we've been doing and connecting New Zealand and Western Growers together. To really understand those challenges. I would definitely like to echo the voice of earlier speakers and the need to accelerate the pace of work, and also we need to move to more collaborative ways to work together in the space and solve this global harvesting challenge. The industries, tech innovators, growers, researchers, and countries cannot work in isolation on this. And I think, this has been echoed right throughout the session today. COVID-19 has had significant impacts on New Zealand's workforce, and despite New Zealand being in a very privileged position of having no COVID cases in our community, our ongoing border restrictions have meant that industries are very reliant on this migrant labour, that have been very reliant on migrant labour, and that is resulting in our shortages. So we haven't got access to the usual international backpackers. We have been able to allow Pacific workers to come in, but certainly less than we've ever had before. And certainly we're in our summer season here. Our apple harvest season is just getting underway, and we're already hearing reports of over only 70% of our apples likely to be picked in some regions. So we need to solve these issues along with Western growers and many of the other countries that are also in the same challenging position. I am coming in behind our two technology companies and really as part of the program of work that Callaghan Innovation, who I work for, and they are New Zealand's government innovation agency, and along with our other partner agencies, really, and enablers, we're looking to build a support a New Zealand global transformation program in agritech. What I'm looking to do sort of through this presentation is really provide an overview of the work in place that will help support global initiatives like the one that Western Growers are presenting today, and hope to do that through just the range of support that will be on offer from New Zealand to really support the acceleration in this space. Next slide, please. The AgriTech Industry Transformation Plan is a plan that has been launched, and really our vision is to become a globally competitive agritech ecosystem, providing ingenious value-adding companies, meaningful jobs, and solving New Zealand and the world's sustainability problems. So it is New Zealand agritech that's not only good for New Zealand, that is also good for the world. To do this, we've got 6 work streams in place that are looking really at how we accelerate this and really transform our industry. And one of the first one is really around globalization, and that's really helping our businesses reach global scale. We know we can't scale, as Steve indicated, our companies from just focusing on New Zealand alone, and it needs to be well connected to a globally scaling partnership program. Commercialisation, and if you talk with any companies in this sort of startup robotics and automation space, commercialisation is super hard. So part of what Callaghan Innovation is supporting is really around accelerating commercialisation from New Zealand to the world, and how can we help our companies do that faster and more efficiently. And again, these type of partnerships and global initiatives is really part of that acceleration program. Investments, we all know that we can't have great startup companies without good investment. So that's really strongly working. And I know Finisterre were presenting, and they're certainly one of our partners around investment, but looking at how we can attract more investment to scale and help our companies grow. Data interoperability and regulations, that this is something we're looking at in New Zealand, and I know it's been mentioned a few times throughout the day, but as a global industry and with all the technology, how are we going to ensure that the data standards and regulations are all connected and aligned? And skills and workforce, of course, none of us can grow these, both the technology companies and support our horticulture industry without having really strong skills and workforce support. And for New Zealand, it's really around ensuring that the government is aligned and can provide the best support. We're really the enablers of this. This is an industry-led program, and we're looking at ensuring that the government provides the best support as for this type of growth. There are 3 high impact projects, and it's really the one that we're focusing on today is the Horticulture Robotics Catalyst. And I'll go through and quickly talk about that. And this, just really to reiterate, this is an industry-led transformation plan, but the key partners in this are across government organisations such as Callaghan, NZTE and others, and really with our industry partner, AgriTech NZ. Next slide. So just to give you an overview on the Hort Robotics Catalyst. Next slide. The purpose of a catalyst, I guess, catalyst is causing something to happen or change, and we all know that really we're all here about creating that, catalysing that change, doing that together. The ambition is for New Zealand to be a global leader in horticulture robotics. That's really our something, and the purpose is around connecting, collaborating and aligning our industry and positioning horticulture technology outcomes both for New Zealand that can be taken globally. It is our high impact project, and there's certainly great support both from industry and government towards that. Next slide. If we look at the ecosystem and part of any good plan, and I know Western growers are also working towards this, but is really ensuring that we have a really closely connected ecosystem. And in New Zealand, we're really lucky. We're small. It's 2 degrees of separation. But it still requires a lot of work to connect everyone together. So it is connecting our horticulture technology innovators to the problems. So that's both the problems of our local New Zealand horticulture companies, but also to those global scaling opportunities and working with growers offshore. Our industry groups, our investors and funders, having that government support and really connecting that researchers and academia to everything. So if when you look at the sort of the overall map and you sort of throw a whole lot of logos on a page, it doesn't doesn't really represent the connectivity. And for New Zealand to really succeed, we need to take advantage of our small connected ecosystem. These are not individuals and not individual organisations. They are very connected in New Zealand, and we're very fortunate that we're able to do that very easily. Certainly, from what Robotics Plus talked about, and if you look at something like an example of the asparagus harvester project, that's really a great example of collaboration from across our universities, working really closely with a technology company to come up with a solution that's again aligned with Tender Tips was the original company in New Zealand, a grower that has got a problem and really working technology, research and growers working together on that solution. And the government coming together to supply that early stage support and funding, connections, advice that really helps our technology companies scale. New Zealand is a nation of innovators, and again, we've got companies like Tomra, which are actually an offshore company that has acquired two leading technology companies like Compact Sorting and BBC Technology. But what Tomra has done is actually retained their innovation centre and soft fruit packing and sorting in New Zealand, and that's really driving some of that key innovation, and also really helping us build out that tech stack and capability that sits in our sort of fruit packing, sorting, high value crops, with high value crops such as apples, kiwi fruit, berries, and soft fruit. So really, you know, in terms of some of the world leading packing, sorting, and even with Robotics Plus and their apple sorters, there's leading capability that sits in New Zealand with our innovators, tech companies, and a lot of the capability that sits around that. We are we may be small on a global scale, but we definitely punch way above our weight. And I would describe in New Zealand every single orchard and farm as a test bed of innovation, and constantly blown away by some of the innovations that we are being seen from our growers. And certainly what we're doing in New Zealand is really showcasing some of that with our technology companies and researchers, and looking at how we scale that globally. And I'll talk a bit more about some of that work that's being done shortly. Next slide. In terms of the technology scope, and again, sort of aligning in with Western growers and the work that they're doing, and looking at the technology stack, certainly robotics, automation, sensing, data analytics, AI, vision and imagery is really strongly aligned with what the Horticulture Robotics Catalyst is looking to build, grow, and continue to evolve. Next slide. And again, aligning with the crops that we're focusing in on and on the ground, on the vine and on the tree, and really within the scope of the catalyst, technology spanning from behind the orchard and through to the farm gate market distribution. So again, really from pretty much seed and genetics right through to how do we distribute product is some of the capability that sits within the New Zealand ecosystem. Next slide. Just quickly, I won't go into too much details around this, but probably just focusing on some of the services that the Catalyst will be able to provide as part of a support for our technology companies as they look to work on in and around initiatives like what Western growers and the global problems around harvesting. Part of what the Catalyst will do is really be that industry connector, and already connecting into events and opportunities like Western Growers have pulled together as a really important part of what we do. Certainly the project facilitation and support, and that's probably going to be one of the key things as this initiative grows, is really providing that key project facilitation point from New Zealand and the project leadership, and recognising that New Zealand is not coming with just single startups. We are coming with a fully integrated service, and so it's really how can we support our startups with the backing of researchers, the backing of our grower groups, and the backing of government, and really pulling that whole project facilitation piece together so that we can help accelerate some of the work offshore. It'll look to sort of provide support around commercialisation, IP, right through to funding and regulatory advice. So really, there's going to be there is and will continue to be a great amount of support that will be put in behind these projects and these global initiatives from New Zealand. Next slide. So the areas of impact really is around the technology. So it's facilitating, supporting to the technology commercialisation, growing the number of and size of our sector and our companies as we help them to scale and connect into global opportunities, developing our talent, that global impact, and really we are trying to make global impact, and that connectivity, connecting up both nationally and globally to accelerate commercialisation. Next slide. And just before I go into, we've got a short video. Really, part of the initiative that we're really looking to build is not just about technology. We have a strong partnership program approach from New Zealand, and we're already working really strongly in with the US and a number of areas, and one of those is around breeding cultivars for superior flavour, disease tolerance, and looking at how breeding helps with mechanical harvesting and processing. So this partnership approach is super valuable, and Steve touched on the value of that for what he's doing, but also recognising that New Zealand it's not just the technology. There's an amazing, we grow every crop in New Zealand, and some of the work that goes into our breeding, growing programs, right from seed through to genetics, breeding the best genetics for disease tolerance, firmness, flavour, and harvesting, as well as looking at right down to saplings and how they're grown to ensure they're productive. So right from small trees and how and the amount of innovation that's going in there, through to harvesting systems, how you grow a tree to ensure it's both productive, but also working towards what harvesting, what a orchard or farm of the future really would look like, and really innovating some new growing systems that will enable us to actually harvest more efficiently using some of these automated solutions. So if we just play that video, hopefully we can flick to that.
The Pacific Northwest area of the United States produces over 95% of the country's red raspberry crop for processing. However, traditional varieties of raspberry are coming under increasing disease and environmental pressures. In 1998, Plant and Food Research began working with the Northwest Plant Company, a nursery business in Washington State, in trialling new varieties from the New Zealand breeding program, and later on, inbreeding new raspberry varieties specifically for the Pacific Northwest environment. This collaboration has resulted in the Wakefield raspberry that is now available to growers. Plant and Food Research has a long-established rubus breeding program, with proven success in developing new varieties of raspberries, blackberries and hybrid berries for the fresh and processed markets. Dr. Ron Beetson heads up the rubus breeding program at the Institute's Motueka site at the top of New Zealand's South Island.
The rubus breeding program is part of our thrust to have a berry fruit centre of excellence here in Motueka, and it's an integral part of the development of our plant breeding programs in the whole of the berry fruit area. So the rubus, I believe, has got a lot of potential for offshore development, and our science programs are geared towards delivering new cultivars that not only suitable for New Zealand but also could be suitable for other countries. Cultivars that could be taken up to places like the Pacific Northwest of the United States.
The Wakefield raspberry has some key characteristics that make it suitable for the Pacific Northwest region, including resistance to raspberry bushy dwarf virus and high yields of firm fruit. Adam Enfield of Enfield Farms has found that the variety meets a lot of requirements for their processed raspberry business.
The key advantages of Wakefield, first of all, the flavor, it tastes excellent. The yield, it yields higher than the standard other varieties. The firmness is a really big deal. That firmness also, I think, helps with some mold resistance. It doesn't seem to rot as easily as the other varieties. The disease resistance, we have one field that's 5 years old, and it just looks like it's getting stronger, and the fruit quality is wonderful, and that's very exciting for us. It likes to be planted on a little bit heavier soil, which tells us it's a little bit root rot tolerant. It machines unbelievably well. The machine doesn't pick any green leaves, and the firmness of the fruit just rolls into the flat and looks beautiful.
The Wakefield raspberry is truly an exceptional variety for the Pacific Northwest processed raspberry industry. The plants are high yielding, machine harvest well, and are showing resistance to diseases such as bushy dwarf and root rot experienced by some other varieties. The fruit holds its shape well for IQF processing and has high levels of healthful compounds that consumers are beginning to demand.
Great. So I guess the reason for showing that video is really talking to the fully integrated approach that we're taking from New Zealand, from really looking at what the future crops would look like, and the fact that we're going to have to look at different ways of breeding and developing crops for this automated harvesting of the future. That the structures will probably need to change, and we're working hard to look at what those new structures are likely to be, and the amount of research that's going into that area. We're breeding for productivity, sustainability, and for the future harvesting options, so that when we look at our fully integrated approach, it is, what are those breeds, what structures, and how will they be grown? What is the technology that's going to support it? And really right from, disease detection, crop estimation, and all the technologies that line up, and then ultimately, how will they be harvested? And some of those new and developing technologies that will support that to ensure that we can have those crops grown for a lot easier options in terms of harvesting. Last slide, please. Oh, we're on the last one. So, so really, just it's a great opportunity to be able to talk to you all today. If we look at what the NZ offer is and how we work, it is really a partnership program that we're looking to develop between New Zealand and the world. The access and that to our sort of fully connected New Zealand Horticulture ecosystem, and that's right down from our growers and how you can grow and use your technology to harvest, right through to what our technologies companies are providing, and that ecosystem of support with our researchers and strong government support. Cross-functional and agile project teams, that's what we have to offer, focused on impact and speed to market. And I certainly think that Steve has presented a great example of the work that he's done on being able to really accelerate access, a problem from what he's done around the log scaling. And certainly how that's been supported by some of the government funding, the partnerships that he's been able to build, and a great example of how that can be done at speed. Access to innovative growers and off-season test beds to accelerate commercialisation, and that's a really what we've found with particularly in the harvesting area. And in the research area is that we offer that northern southern hemisphere testing environment. One of the challenges that really slows down innovation in this area is the fact it is seasonal. You've got one opportunity of a year to do all your research and innovation. If we can, the world can look at how to speed that up, it would be ensuring that you're working on 2 seasons in 1 year and using that northern southern hemisphere opportunity. And certainly, if you look at New Zealand, we grow just about every crop in New Zealand. And so certainly there's no shortage of access to crops and willing participants in terms of people and growers that would be keen to collaborate and help be those testers. We have a vertically integrated approach from genetics to the consumers, and a globally scalable built through strong international connections, and really appreciate the opportunity Western Growers have given for us to present today, and certainly encourage anyone who's looking to work with New Zealand, collaborate, connect, to get in contact. We'd be more than happy to talk about how we can do that through some of the initiatives that we've got in place. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Nicki. That's great. We appreciate the presentations from the startups and from you at Callahan.